Well, thankfully, the parts came today. So, just some random stuff, some PEX for the heat loop that goes up to the barn. Selection of close nipples, 1.25 inches and 1.5 inches. Got a bigger bore drain valve, so this is a 3/4 inch instead of a 1/2 inch for the main tank drains. A huge roll of tape, pipe thread tape. That's really been a holdup not having that. And then a great many boxes of valves. Because these are pairs, that's great. So 1.5 inch valves and 1.25 inch valves for all the connections, basically throughout the heating system on either side of any pump or anything. So yeah, expensive but I've critical. Got the parts and pieces allocated, kind of put where I need to work with them. Annoyingly, on the tanks, I'm going to have to take the handles off of the valves because there's not enough room with the amount of space between the elbow and the tank to rotate them. That's okay. We can pull the handles off. I'll be able to put the valves on where they need to be. I'm not going to do any of that work today, although I've been chomping at the bit and had this delivery arrived earlier than 4 o'clock. I might have left on the opportunity to do some stuff, but tonight's New Year's Eve, so Alice and I are going to take the rest of the afternoon off and evening. We're going to come back, and because tomorrow is going to be one of the only free days Allison has in a long time, we're going to work together to feed the PEX out of here to go the 2 heating circuits up out of here. And so I'm going to bring the PEX. One of the reasons I came down tonight was I'm going to grab the PEX and bring it up to the house to stay warm overnight and be a lot warmer than if I left it here. It's 45 now, and I've had the heater running for a couple hours because I thought we were going to work down here today. I wasn't actually expecting, I've been waiting for this delivery for days. It should have been here a couple days ago, and I was actually not convinced because they give you a time frame. It was supposed to be here between 12:15 and 2:40, and at 2:40 it came and went, and so I thought we were just going to be able to do the PEX today, but it turns out Allison had some stuff that delayed her, so she was not here, and I was going to have Charlotte help, but then Charlotte was needed to do stuff up in the creamery, which is her job, not helping me at the boiler room. So Allison and I are going to take care of running the PEX tomorrow. And then Friday, I got to hit this hard. I got to get as much of this put together in as short amount of time as possible. Get this system up and running. Tomorrow's the 1st of January. That is crazy. And the beginning of the new year. So Happy New Year. You'll see this late, I know. But we're catching up. But now that I got the valves, now that I got the close nipples and some bits and pieces, and more importantly, the higher quality pipe tape than I can find locally, I can get going on this. I keep walking back and forth because I know that I need to turn the lights off here. There, and you will not be able to see me, and I will not be able to see out to grab that PEX and get out of here. So off you go, and I'm going to turn on my switch. New Year's Day catch up. Allison and I ran the 2 hot water PEX lines out of the shed here, the container, up into the barn and got them where they need to go. That's shown me a limitation of where I need to run the 1-inch PEX heating lines, so I'll have to rethink that. But that's good. I know something now that I didn't know earlier today. Great. And so she's tidying up a little bit of cheese work before we take the rest of the day off. So I've been down here mapping stuff out. I've got a little bit of work done laying out the pump and how far the line comes out from the bottom of the boiler because it has to match where the where the lines tie into on the tanks. And I've also started plumbing the tanks, just loosely fitting, because to see where everything needs to be, because the distance from here to where the water enters on the hot side and where it exits on the cold side need to be identical in relative terms in length, as close as possible to the same, so the tanks balance in pressure and heat and flow. So I've got that laid out, and then where the main energizing the return line there and the heating line here tie in, I think, in some combination of that, where the unions go to join the two tanks together, that's all pretty well mapped out. So I can start putting some of this on. I still need to figure out getting the valves up, the air valves up on top of the tanks. Get that done, get this connected as far as I've gotten it so far. Then I can position the tanks together, and I'll know what that final distance is for a piece of pipe to go between the T and the union. And those should be identical pieces of pipe, identical lengths for both top and bottom, theoretically. So that's something I'm going to work on probably tomorrow, getting that orchestrated, especially figure something a way to get those vents up on top. And then I'll also be messing around with the distance out with the pump and the pipes and the turns and elbows coming off the return to the boiler. As soon as I have these lines on the floor to kind of give me a roughly identify where I need to go, which is kind of handy. Once I get that situated, then I can figure out where. I'm pretty sure this is close to the right height coming out of here. So then I need to know where I go with the 90. Do I point it back? Do I come out perpendicular? Do I angle it before coming this way? Because I have to do two things. I have to send the hot boiler water back and intercept this valve going to temper the water returning to the boiler so that it's not too cold. And I also have to tee in to this structure here somehow to feed the tanks. This tee here is to get the hot water going up to the PEX circuits up in the barn, the heating circuits, the 1-inch PEX line, and same thing with the tee down below there. That's the return line. So that's pretty well established. I just need to know where to go from there to connect these to the boiler. It's going to be a mess. I'm sure I don't have all the pipe. I'm sure I don't have all the right fittings, but I'm getting closer. Once I get those things established, then I got to figure out how to tee into. I also, coming out of there, I have to tee into the two hot water heaters and also the returns for the hot water heaters, which means these tanks have to be situated. I'm thinking they're going to have to come this way, a little bit further away from the boiler, probably matching. See the gap there? I'll match the front boiler there to this boiler, bring it this way, and that'll help give me a little bit more distance between the boiler and the tank. Because remember, this is going to I got to put 2 inches of insulation on the tanks eventually. Got to make sure it doesn't leak. Got to get the system up and running. It's January 1st. I'm hoping that by the end of the week, in a week and 7 days, I will have this thing mostly ready to go, if not already going. I mean, that's kind of my goal. I don't know if that's achievable with my very small bare brain, but I'm going to give it a shot. I borrowed my buddy's pallet jack when I thought I could use it to move the tanks, and turns out it helped a little bit, but not as much as I wanted it to. But while I have the pallet jack here, I want to get at least 4 pallets of firewood in and moved and situated up in this area of the boiler room, closer to the boiler. Just basically use the pallet jack to kind of get things in a bit. Probably this week. I want to do that early in the week. Then I want to return the pallet jack to him so that I can borrow his kerosene blast salamander thing. Because I think that's the only way I'm going to get this place hot enough to work the PEX that I need to work to get all the tanks and everything and the boiler system filled without anything freezing. Because like I said, this is going to take a couple days to fill 800 gallons of water with our slow, poor well. So that's a concern. Getting the water in here, not having anything freeze while I'm doing it, and also at the same time bleeding air out of the system. So I may have to work around the clock that day. I don't know how it's going to work. I think certainly if I start early enough in the day, I could, on a day, like on the weekend when Allison isn't doing any cheese work and there's no demand for water other than livestock water, which is also at a minimum right now. So I should be able to go a couple 100 gallons every hour with an hour wait in between for the well to recharge. So that's going to be 8 hours of that. So that's basically one whole work day. And then all the other subsequent 20 gallons here, 20 gallons there, 40 gallons in the boiler. So, you know, another 100 at least gallons. And then charging all the lines going up into the barn and getting the heating lines up there charged with water and purging all the air. There's no heat. And we've seemed to have these super bitter cold temperatures setting in for the next week anyway, single digits, it looks like. So this is going to be a frickin' challenge because I don't think it's going to warm up. You know, I wouldn't be so nervous if we were hovering at freezing, but because it's so bitter cold, everything becomes a challenge. Now, once I get some hot water, once I get, you know, the lines charged and the water and the air purging, then I can start a fire. I can do a couple of small fires and I have to, you know, run the boiler full tilt and just get that water warm. As long as it's circulating, it won't freeze. So then I can start thermal charging the tanks. But I'd also like to be able to do that during the day, especially the first time operating the boiler, so that I am around doing nothing but paying attention to the new system. So yeah, there's a lot to do between now and then, and there's some cleaning up in here. I brought a lot of parts and pieces down that I now am not using, but I also like the fact that boiler-related things are here in this shed, and then once we get some heat in here, and this is operating, I'll use this as a heated storage space for paints and things like that, because right now we don't have a very good spot for that. We have to drag everything into the house, and we're tripping over it in the closets and the hallways of the house until spring, and then we can put it all back in the barn. So if we had this as a insulated heated storage shed for things like paints and some of that stuff that you don't want freezing, then I need to orchestrate some shelves and some things in here and get some stuff tidied up. Do that, and it will be a long way ahead. I also, the thing that's going to take a lot more time than I imagine is I have to run the two 1-inch PEX lines. I have to reroute them from where they are in the barn. And you know, in order to do that, I have to redo the cold water line coming down here. So again, I can't have that freeze. So I know that getting it to drip, you know, it's basically the line that feeds the cow trough, so it'll be dripping, so it'll flow. But I have to get that pipe rerouted and brought in here and tacked to the wall and get a hole drilled down at the far end, so that I can put a hose bib out there for that. That's probably the best part of a day's work right there doing that. And given the time frame I have in a day, and I only get about 3 to 4 hours at the most, and then that's weather dependent at this time of year. So yeah, got a lot to do coming up this week. But anyway, so we're going to take the rest of today off. It is Friday, the 2nd of January, 2026. Happy New Year. I am rushing some food and water to the front calves because I was plowing the driveway just now. And I think there's one or more that have broken out or in the wrong place, possibly damaging apple trees, which I won't be happy about. Yeah, New Year's Eve and all day yesterday, it snowed, this fine, light snow. It got about 5 inches, but last night was really windy, so it's hard to tell. It packed in everywhere. We got drifts and bare spots, and yeah, so I decided not to do any plowing or anything yesterday. Tried to have a little bit of a day off. We did have customers. And then set to plowing this morning, but it was an annoying level of snow because it's packed in places but fine otherwise. Very dusty snow, powdery, but only a little bit. It's hard to get it plowed when it's only like 4 inches or so in places, or less because of the drift. Anyway, we got it done, and gonna plow through chores now. All right, calf crisis averted. The line had come down. I still don't know what happened to the fence post or why that line was slack. I've gotten it tightened up now, and the calves just stay out of the apple trees. I'm gonna go help Allison finish milking. I should finish plowing, but it's just basically shoving the same little pile of snow around. It's not sticky enough, and it's fine enough that I can't pick it up can't pick up a lot with a bucket. It's gonna have to be what it is. Not sure we're gonna have too many customers today anyway. But at least it's cleared. I like clearing after every storm as much as possible. That way it doesn't build up. And if it does, we get some melting today because it's sunny. And I know it's bitter cold with the wind. It's in the negative temperatures right now, but with a little bit of sunshine on the blacktop, so we should get some melting and clean up the driveway better. Why, here is Allison now. Getting it figured out? Huh? Is it working better? Another cold day, and the milking claws are freezing up.
The valve.
The valve.
Icicles hang down from both of them.
The condensation gets in there and freezes. Not fun. So I'm down here slaving away inside my frozen lair in the boiler room, and I managed to get the air valve on top of one of the tanks. Turns out there was just enough height and a little bit of pressure upwards with a 2x4 to flex the ceiling up. I managed to just get the other valve in and get it threaded down, and there it sits. Now, this valve needs to go here, and there isn't enough height to even get it close. I don't know what's going on. That one, it was just tight to get it to where it would slide through, and there was just enough length and to get in there and thread it. And once it was threaded, it was far enough down. Plus, I'm mindful that once these are full of water, they may squash down the floor a little bit and certainly bear some weight down and may flex things. And so that valve will have a little bit even more clearance because I still have to put the cap on it. This one I can't get in place no matter what I try. And I'm worried. I've put a lot of pressure on top of the tank with the 2x4 and a block. And while I am flexing the ceiling up, it's not enough. And it almost looks like I'm flexing the top of the tank, which I certainly, A, don't think I should be physically able to do, and B, definitely don't want to do. So my only other option is to tip the tank over until I can fit this valve in and thread it all the way down, and then slowly put it back, hoping that it is far enough down that it doesn't gouge this top little bit, gouge the ceiling. I just don't know why this is different in this location. So I've been fighting that for quite a while, and I'm gonna have to give up here soon because my patience and my ideas are expired. I don't want to leave that up there to fall on my head, so I'm gonna take it down. Plus I've been standing on a ladder now for quite a while. These take a lot of force, 2-inch pipe to put in, so I can't fit my big 36-inch pipe wrench up there, so I had to use a pipe on a spanner thing, a adjustable crescent wrench, so that I get tightened up in there, and hope to God it's tight enough. So I will finish doing some of the assembly on the tank that's complete now. I am do that with the remaining time I have down here. So as soon as it gets to be 3 o'clock, I have to run Charlotte home, and then I've got to get on with day. We got a duck for New Year's dinner, and we didn't make it because we were having such a nice time just eating cheese and having a bottle of champagne and relaxing with the dogs, and there was no pressure or anything, no guests, so we didn't actually make the duck that we bought. So I got to do that today. I've also been down here laying out the return lines to the boiler, and I've got as far as getting the stub on the pressure relief tank and the union, and I've got all the piping set now, coming out from the return, out past the valve, through the pump, and around the corner. I still have to still need to pipe dope that corner elbow, and then everything this way. But at least I can start mapping things out. I'm figuring I may have to get a shorter pipe there between the two unions. I think it's going to be I think that's an 18-inch piece. I'll probably need a 12 or maybe an 8 and a union, but I'm going to just put 2 T's to go into the water heaters coming off of there, and then this will somehow join up to the system here. I'm going to get I have to get this valve in this tank, this air valve, because really my next step is to position these tanks where they need to go and get all the connections up here attached, and have the 2 tanks attached together so that I know where I'm going with the out from the boiler, because that has to tie the outflow of the boiler, the hot water has to tie into that T valve down there as preheating, so that no return water going to the boiler is cooler than 140 degrees. That'll keep the boiler from condensing and rotting out any of the firebox or the heat exchangers. And so we do that by injecting hot water coming straight out of the top of the boiler back into the return water line. And that's pretty crucial. That forms a nice heating loop as the boiler gets up and fired each time. And then as that gets hotter and hotter and the water keeps returning, and then it'll start opening up the main flow, and that's when the tanks start getting energized. So that's a fairly crucial thing, but I've got to map out how to make that T fit in here, coming out of the top of the boiler, and also tying that top of the boiler into all this piping at the top of the tanks. So I have made a modest amount of progress. Not happy with not being able to get the valve in here as easy as this one. And this wasn't easy, but at least I got it. So I'm going to work on these tanks with what little time I have remaining this afternoon. Well, I just hit a snag. I was bringing a bale down to the cows, and I stopped to put it out in front, and I backed the tractor off. I was cutting the bale wrap off of it, and the tractor stalled. So I've got in, and I can't get the tractor to run more than for a second when I start it up. I hadn't let it warm up as much as I should have before I brought the bale down here, figuring parking it here, it would sit for another 5-10 minutes while I fed out the bale, unwrapped the bale and got it moved before I had to bring down a bedding bale. And now I got a block of tractor sitting in the way. It is 8 degrees out, so it's got to be a fuel issue. But dang if I can solve it at 7 o'clock at night when I got chores I still got to do. Fortunately, I don't need the tractor to do chores, but I do need it to feed, and I have some of a bedding bale left over there, and I was stupid. I was going to bring the bedding bale down first. But I figured I would just let the tractor sit here and idle a little bit longer and warm up a little bit more. But now I really need the daylight to solve whatever issue this is. I don't know if it's moisture in the fuel or gelled fuel or what. I am not happy. I hate issues like this. Tractor's been running great otherwise. So yeah, I really don't know what this is, and I really don't need this right now because I had thought I would whip through chores early tonight and go spend another hour working on the boiler system, but this means I'm going to have to fight. I've got to have to unwrap the bale where it is in the middle of the road and then carry armfuls of... Yeah, not happy. It is Saturday, January 3rd, and, the thermometer says it's 24 out. It's got to be in the teens because of the wind and the cow decoration that has been up since before Christmas, that has made it through many windstorms, has just blown off the roof, as has our shovel. So, yeah, last night the tractor quit working. It turns out that it's a little over a year since the same exact thing happened. December 28th, 2024, I was feeding bales out in the field, or moving a bale around through the field, and the tractor quit out there. So I had to look at my notes, and I saw that had happened. Same exact issue. Fortunately, that wind is cutting. I have a spare fuel filter. I didn't change it back then, but I'm going to change it now because we've got 600 hours on the machine, roughly, and it's due for a filter change anyway, so I might as well put the new one on. Might have to take the old one off because I'm pretty sure what's happened is moisture has been trapped inside the fuel filter. There, it's not easy to get out. Moisture's trapped in there, and once the fuel filter medium, what's inside of a fuel filter, gets wet, it does not readily absorb diesel again. It's pretty ruined once it happens. So I got lucky with getting away with it for a year, basically, but I'm going to change it out and hopefully get this thing started. I've got 5 gallons of diesel to add to the tractor, and I've got some of the red diesel 911 additive that I'll put 50-50 in the filter, put that back on, and then the rest will go in the tank. Now I have to open up the hood in order to get that filter off, and in this wind I'm not... Oh, right. Huh. Well, I guess I can make it work. With the bucket where it's at, it could be a little bit of a challenge. All right, let's see what happens. All right, so I got the old filter off, and I'm handling the new filter. And the old filter was full of liquid diesel. It wasn't gelled or anything. But if you look in the bottom of this new filter, you'll see it's pretty clear. In the old filter, there's something down there, which I think is ice. Right there, that weird brown partial there, it's got to be something solid like ice. A little bit of ice in there if it's at the bottom of that, given it's probably also through the fibers of the filter, so it's plugged that up, so it reduced the flow of the diesel. That's most likely what the problem is. I've got to put everything back together now and then put the diesel in the tank and go. It wasn't easy getting that filter off. There's not a lot of room, and there's some hoses and wires in the way. Hands are bricks of ice, even with 2 layers of gloves on. I got the filter off, emptied. You saw the ice in there. I've replaced 50% diesel 911 additive, which has worked for me over the years in the past, and 50% diesel in the filter. And then I put the filter back on. There's an electrical connection on the bottom of the filter for a moisture meter that only really works in the summer. But putting that on, my hands just got so cold. They're frozen bricks of ice. So I am just in here cycling the glow plugs several times. Make sure the engine's warm enough at whatever minus wind chill is out there. It's bitter cold. So I'm going to see, the fuel tank's full, and I've added the rest of that can. And we're started. We're going. I gotta let this thing warm up. That's the problem. I can't just move this up onto somewhere else. It's gonna have to warm up, but it got it going. It's running for the moment. We'll see what happens. I'm just gonna get this out of here, because if it shuts down again, then I'm stuck. But if I get this out of here, I can use the skid steer to move things. Not ideal to move a tractor when its oil's all cold, but I have let it warm up a little bit. I'm not gonna hit the throttle at all. I just gotta back up and out of here. This same thing happened, like I said, a little over a year ago, December 28th. Similar weather conditions to this. Bitter cold, warm, bitter cold. And I was also pulling diesel out of 5-gallon pails back then, because I obviously didn't have diesel in the tank or couldn't afford to fill it or some such. Anyway, I am now up here on the flat and out of the way. I'm going to park this somewhere a little bit more out of the way in case it does shut down. It's a pretty simple remedy when when something stalls because of a diesel issue during the winter. You can pretty much associate it with some kind of moisture, and that is the problem with running the tank half full. Oh, what do I want to do? I don't want this here, because I got to get that grapple with the skid steer. My next problem is going to be taking the bucket off the skid steer, because the pin was frozen yesterday with some ice. Again, on these warm, cold days, the things thaw and ice drains down and melts in places that it shouldn't be, or water does, and then it forms ice. So now, if all is good, then if this is running still, then I will use it to get a bale of hay, bedding hay. Otherwise, I've got to use the skid steer. So we're just going to let this warm up and see if it's still running in about 10 minutes. I'm going to go off and do other things, or warm up my hands first of all. It's damn, they're cold. So, tractor worked and ran fine. Got it parked back there by the bales. I was able to pick up a bedding bale out front, bring it down, drop it off at the barn, come back, and I put out another silage bale for tomorrow, or maybe later tonight. I am not happy with how fast we're burning through the silage. I calculate bales lasting 2 days minimum. Usually it's about 2.5 days. And we're burning through them every day and a half pretty much. a large part of that is the amount of mold and waste from these bales. The last two have been quite moldy. Certainly the one they're eating on now, I just pulled out a bunch of mold, and probably the bale I just dropped off is going to have to be a lot rejected because of mold. That was the biggest boondoggle I've ever experienced, buying a bunch of moldy feed. Damn it.